Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machain La'ira online smicha. Being that tonight is Chanukah, and many of us are in the middle of learning the halachas of Basar B'Chalav, so Davar B'Itay Ma'atoiv, I would like to discuss a short halacha in Hilchas Chanukah that's relevant to Hilchas Basar B'Chalav. And the obvious question is, what happens if somebody has shemen, oil that's usher due to Basar B'Chalav, or he has candles that's made up from a mixture of Basar B'Chalav? And the question is, would you be yotze the mitzvah of hadlakas neiros with something that's usher mishum Basar B'Chalav? Now, the bottom line is, the discussion is only lechatchila. The Pri Megadim in his Psicha and Orach Chaim write that b'diavad he will be yotze. You don't have to. If he did it, you won't have to rekindle. And the Marsham and Shilos Reshuvos Chelik Dalet Siman Kuf Chav Beis also says b'diavad is fine. The question is only lechatchila. May you use a Basar B'Chalav candle, which by now we know Basar B'Chalav is also b'anah. May you use that for Chanukah candles? So I'm going to tackle it from three conversations. Conversation number one is min hamutar b'ficha. In other words, we know that many mitzvahs, the way you perform the mitzvah has to be done with things that are permissible. Things that are asur is not the preferable way how to perform the mitzvah. Second question we'll tackle it from the isser of bishul Basar B'Chalav, that when you kindle the candle or the oil, you're cooking the Basar B'Chalav. And the third issue is fulfilling the mitzvah with Basar B'Chalav. You're having hanah, and Basar B'Chalav is asur b'hanah. So let's start with number one. Min hamutar b'ficha. Is this an issue for Chanukah licht? So this is a machlekes achronim, whether this concept applies by every mitzvah, that every mitzvah only should be done with things that are permissible, or is this only applicable by certain mitzvahs? Like we know that by tefillin, it says that the tefillin has to be made from skin, from hide, from a kosher animal, because it says "L'man tia teres Hashem b'ficha," and the Chazal tell us that min hamutar b'ficha, only what things you're allowed to put into your mouth, that's what you can make the skin from, the parchment from. But not necessarily everybody agrees that this applies in all mitzvahs. For example, we also find in Hilchas Shofar, in Siman Tov Kuf Pei Vav Sif Aleph, that Amar writes that a shofar from a behemoth tmeya is pasul t'kiyashal mitzvah for this reason. But the Mishnah Berurah quotes that there are those that argue and say, "Oh, I don't know if this applies in every mitzvah. Maybe this is something unique for the mitzvah of tefillin." Specifically, by Ne'er Chanukah, Reb Shlomo Kluger in his Sefer Shnois Chaim Siman Chaf Aleph, he holds that the reason of min hamutar b'ficha applies Chanukah to, by Chanukah licht to, but the Marsham and Chelik Tes Siman Lamed Tes, he says no, it doesn't apply in anything but tefillin. It doesn't apply. And even if you do say that, we find that like by shofar there is a discussion. Shofar is a mitzvah min haTorah. By a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, there's no reason to be machmer and insist that it should be min hamutar b'ficha. So that's the first issue. Now let's go to the second issue. When you kindle the shemen shel Basar B'Chalav, you are committing bishul Basar B'Chalav. And even though you're not intending to eat it, but bishul itself is an outstanding isser. So why would that be a yes or a no? So that enters another set of machlekes, and we know the isser of bishul Basar B'Chalav is a very harsh isser, and this is specifically something that we find by Basar B'Chalav, which doesn't apply to any other isser. However, there is a machlekes achronim if bishul achar bishul applies by Basar B'Chalav. And just like we know the big discussion in Hilchos Shabbos, if bishul achar bishul applies, there's a big discussion if it applies in Basar B'Chalav. So since this oil, this candle was already cooked, the Basar B'Chalav, so therefore, depending if you hold yesh bishul achar bishul Basar B'Chalav or not, will be a reason to be machmer or mekel. Others say that there's another reason why this is not an issue of bishul, because the oil that you're dealing with, or the candle that you're dealing with that you're putting on fire, is not bishul, it's sli. It's roasting. And the isser of eating basar min ha-Torah that was cooked with milk, but according to many, not everybody, to eat basar that was roasted with milk is only with the Rabbanan. Now, even if you're going to be machmir, like the Ramah says in Siman Pei Zayin Sif Aleph, that's only about eating such meat that was roasted. But to have hana from such meat that was roasted with milk is you could be mekel. Rabbi Akiva Eger adds, and he says that maybe even the roasting of the meat and the milk together is it's not the same as cooking. By cooking, you're not allowed to do it for no reason. For roasting, by roasting a milk, it's only if you can end up eating it. So it could be that if you have meat and milk that were roasted together, it might be mutter. Another answer, it might be mutter to use it. Another answer is brought in Shari Tshuva in Siman Tov Reish Ayin Gimel. He says the Isser of Bishul of Basar B'chalav is only when you do it for the purpose of Bishul. In other words, you're making the item ready to eat. But if you're doing it to destroy it, in this case, you're making a fire out of it, there is no issue of Bishul Basar B'chalav. Now let's get to the main thing. Would you be able to use it? How about the fact that you're having hana from it? And hana of basar b'chalav is a big issue too, especially that by basar b'chalav is quite different than Shabbos. Shabbos candles, we find that over there, the whole purpose of the Shabbos candle is to have hana from it. It should be light, or shalom bayis, and that's why Ataka says that any oil from Isser Hana, because you want to gain light or benefit from the Shabbos candle, you can't use it. But it comes to Chanukah candle where there is no benefit from the candle, as we say in the Nusach HaNisim, Ein lanu rishus l'ishtamish behem. If that's correct, maybe. That's not when you're lighting the Shabbos candle, lighting the Chanukah candle from, even though it's a basar b'chalav candle, but you're not having enough from it. You're not gaining anything from it. You're performing a mitzvah out of it. We know that Chazal say mitzvah salav lehanis nitnu. So who says that will be an issue? And ein achanami that you're only not allowed to have enough from the candle while it's burning for the period of time of the Chanukah candle. But if a person would make sure he's not going to benefit from it afterwards, maybe he should be able to do so. So this is a discussion if mitzvah slav lehanis nitnu is a reason to permit it. The Prima Garden and the Shari Tshuva and Siman Tov Reish Ayin Gimel, they hold that even though that we say mitzvah slav lehanis nitnu, a person doesn't have a no from the fact that he's doing a mitzvah Rabbanan. That's only, however, by a mitzvah de'oraisa. By mitzvah the Rabbanon, we say that the etzem fact that you're fulfilling a commandment that Chachamim instituted, that is ha'ana. And since Neiras Chanukah is a mitzvah the Rabbanon, that would be considered ha'ana, and you're not allowed to have ha'ana from basar b'chalav. However, most of the opinions disagree. Say there's no such a thing between mitzvah de'oraisa and mitzvah the Rabbanon. If you hold it's lav lehanis nitnu, you're not meant to have, it's not called having pleasure, then you should be able to. The Prima Garden in his Psicha, Chelik Aleph Ois Lamates, writes that it could be that if somebody has some kosher candles and some non-kosher candles, the fact that he'll be using the non-kosher candles would benefit financially, that he doesn't have to use the ones that he could keep for next time. Maybe that's the profit that he's having enough from, and that's why it will be prohibited. However, Moshe Feinstein in Shal Shuvas Erechaim Chelik Aleph Siman Kuf Tzadik Aleph disagrees, and he says that would not be considered hana. Then there's another reason why you might not be able to use it, and that is what the Pischei Tshuva brings in Yeridea Siman Pei Zayin Sifkat and Gimel, that since something is asur b'hana, it's as if it's not available. It's as if it's useless. A useless thing is not. It doesn't consist of anything. And since when you light the menorah, you have to put in a shear enough to burn, what you're putting in there is worthless. Something that's is not tangible. Something that you're putting in a shear. So maybe that would be the reason why it's prohibited. This is the reason. These are the reasons why not to use it. However, there's a very big chiddush in the Aruch HaShulchan, Simin Tov Reish Ayin Gimel Sifei. He says, yes, you are allowed to use basar b'chalav oil, because even though you're not allowed to have a nah from the basar b'chalav, but this is not called having a nah. And the fact that the last thing we mentioned, that something that you don't have a nah from is not considered a shear. He says that only makes sense when you're dealing with a solid food item. When you're dealing with loose liquid items, it doesn't mean you can't say that it's not there. And the fact is that you see shear in there, and therefore he strongly says that you are allowed to light the chanuka menorah with shemen or neris that are basar b'chalav.